There you go. This meeting is being live streamed. Good morning, everyone. Want to be respectful of your time. Just really excited about um, us being able, unfortunately, not to come together in person, but the opportunity to come together and look at really truly the bylaws and future proposals that will impact the association as we move forward. I start off, first of all, by thanking the organizers of this meeting, my executive assistant, Kathy Lenz. She is responsible for making sure that you get all of your information, the updated packets. Also want to thank Brad and Dan, who are part of the technology today. And it looks like we're on point. So starting off the meeting with our technology working is always a plus. And today I do want to thank the handbook committee. When I was first brought onto this position, one of the things we heard from the membership was that they didn't have input into the formation of bylaws and the formation of proposals. And so we created the handbook committee. This isn't it's in its infancy. We're really only about 4 years into the handbook committee. And today, I think it's really a celebration of the work. You will see proposals that speak to eliminating those that are irrelevant at this time. You'll also see the updates of present bylaws so that we make sure they're defendable. And then you're also going to see bylaws that look at the future and being proactive in terms of decisions that are being made externally by outside groups that we need to be in front of. And I speak to the name, image, and likeness, as well as a few others. So want to thank this handbook committee because it was created in mind with giving a voice to our membership, not only geographically, but also with classification. So thank you. And I want to thank the board because our bylaws previously were only submitted through our board of directors as well as leagues. And the board has been receptive, not only supportive to what the handbook committee has brought forward, but also really embracing them and putting their name on them and making them their own. So I want to thank the board of directors for being open to having that input from the membership. So just starting off with a few thank yous. Not a lot of updates from me, but I spoke to Kata about this last week, and I spoke to our board of directors, and I've mentioned this with our staff that it's really interesting. Once I made the announcement on December 15th, just trying to find my place, right? And I'm at peace around my decision to retire, and I'm just really excited for our association because I do feel that it's time for us to move forward and get out of that reactive mode of where we've been for the last 2 years. But in making that decision and feeling peace around that decision, there was just this uncertainty of where my leadership role is at this time. Am I a manager? Should I be still moving forward? And so on my way to speech on Friday, the wise sage, Tom Robinson, and we had a conversation around it. And I said, Tom, I am at peace with this decision, but why am I feeling this way? And what is this called? And so I'm going to have a pause here as Brad puts up the screen because I do have a name for where I am at this point and what that means. I am a lame duck, and it's okay. And a lame duck is a noun, meaning person, place, or thing. And so I hope Merriam-Webster will give me the latitude and I won't have any copyright issues, but I had the opportunity to just tweak this a little. And it says a lame duck is an elected official, president, CHSAA commissioner holding office during that period of time between naming of their successor and the last day of their health insurance. So I just wanted you to know that I am okay with that. I just have to figure out what that means because it doesn't mean that I'm just going to sit and manage the association for the next 6 months. I'm going to stay heavily involved with the job description that I have until June 30th. but I'm also going to step back a little and allow you guys know the strength of the staff, and push them more into the forefront. They are the future of your association. And I just feel like as I transition out of this position, your new commissioner comes on. I'm just excited for where the association is going to be. And I keep saying this over and over. We have to move out of reactive mode. It's exhausting. We look back in the past, but the excitement around new leadership, and really elevating members of our staff is where we need to be in the forefront. I say this all the time. We are one of the top associations in the nation, and it's because of the strength of our athletic directors, the trust in our membership, as well as the staff. So again, I'm going to I have two new words. I told Tom this on Friday, lame duck and fixed income. So those are my two brand new words that I'll be using for the next 6 months. So thank you guys. I say this all the time. There is nothing that has occurred prior to me making this decision. I just feel like for me, and where I am and where my passions are, is that I feel like I need to lead in a different direction in terms of those things around diversity, equity, and inclusion, and really putting forward whatever strengths I have in that area. So I'm excited for where those opportunities will come. But again, it's just been an honor to serve as your commissioner, and we have the next 6 months together, and I'm looking forward to that, the celebrations and naming the new commissioner. So with that said, thank you. We don't have to talk about it again. Kata knows I choked up 3 or 4 times during their meeting last week. I'm an emotional wreck around this, but just really, truly honored to have been your commissioner for the last, it'll be 5 years when we complete this year. So thank you so much. At this time, just so that we have some logistics about the meeting, I am going to introduce our right hand right now. I guess we can call him that, but Justin Saylor is going to give you an overview so that we're all on the same page with the meeting. But I've said this before, this is an interactive meeting. We don't want to be talking heads. He's going to talk to you and give you some logistics of how you can participate in the meeting. Again, thank you all for being on, and I look forward to a great day. Thank you.
Thanks, Ron. I know Brad's going to have some things to add as well, but just wanted to make sure everyone kind of is aware of the procedures today. Obviously, as Rhonda mentioned, we'd hoped to have this meeting in person. Just kind of adds a more interactive experience, but we still want to kind of bring that and try to replicate that experience for you guys here today. So if you have any questions at any point during the meeting, or you feel like you have the need to come on and say something, or you want to give your opinion, we're recommending that you just include that in the chat. So obviously we've got the chat feature down there at the bottom of the Zoom screen. Everyone should be pretty familiar with that. We will all be monitoring. I will be monitoring the chat throughout the meeting, and I will make sure that if you guys have a question that is addressed as soon as possible, so that we can answer any of your questions. You also have the option to raise your hand. So you'll see that raise your hand feature at the bottom as well. If you feel the need to speak, just go ahead and click the raise your hand. Brad will unmute you and we'll bring you into the meeting and give you the opportunity to say whatever you might need. So looking forward to a great experience today, and we should have a lot of fun talking about the new bylaws. So with that, I'll turn it over to Brad.
Yeah, I think that pretty much covers it. I think we can move along to Board President Luke DeWolf, who's going to give us a welcome.
All right, great. Thank you. Thank you, Brad. Thank you, Justin. Thank you, Rhonda. I'm going to keep my comments pretty short and sweet this morning. And really, I think just kind of build on a lot of the points that Rhonda made. And I know one of her comments was that we don't need to talk anymore about her leaving and Tom leaving, but we do. We really do need to talk more about it, because it is a celebration, and it is something that while I think it's sad in a lot of ways, there's a lot of positives to it too. First and foremost, I want to congratulate Rhonda and Tom on their retirement. Rhonda, your role as a trailblazer, becoming the first African-American female commissioner to lead an association in the National Federation of High Schools' 103-year history, has opened doors and paved the way for other state associations. Beyond that, your ability to lead this association through the pandemic, successfully completing all 31 seasons and culminating events, speaks for itself. Tom, after 20 years of service to the association, I can think of few people who have brought more credibility to our association. Your calming influence and common sense approach will be missed greatly. In the coming months, much more will be said of you both, but on behalf of the association, I simply want to say thank you. The association owes you both a great debt of gratitude. On behalf of all of the membership, I wish you nothing as the best as you move on to the next chapter in your lives. With that being said, the CHSAA Board of Directors is steadily working through the hiring process for the commissioner position. The commissioner position has been posted since January 10th. Applications are being received until February 11th. A screening committee will review applications and choose finalists on February 28th. Interviews will be conducted in March and April, and a final announcement will be made on April 21st at the Legislative Council meeting. As is the case with so many organizations, companies, and school districts, during the course of the pandemic, the association has faced unprecedented challenges. Through those challenges, we have continued to meet our mission, but we've also been forced to become very reactionary in our approach. Short-term goals have become the norm, and more than once we have entered into the dreaded survival mode. As the board looks towards the future, is excited to work through the hiring process and is anticipating the hiring of a visionary leader who is poised to move the association forward and continue to foster an environment that meets the needs of our communities and kids. In the past few weeks, I've heard from many of you, and you have highlighted that getting back to the long-term strategic planning and goal setting of the association is a priority. Ultimately, I'm confident in the hiring process and trust the board to appoint a commissioner who will continue to strive to keep Colorado among the top states for educationally based athletics and activities in the country. Again, thank you for attending this morning. Look forward to a good meeting, good conversation as always. And with that, I will pass it on to CHSAA President Matt Heckel.
Thanks, Luke. Not to drag on it, but Rhonda and Tom, obviously Colorado Athletic Director Association, thank you both for all your leadership and all you've done for our state and all our athletic directors. So thank you. Another thank you to the CHSAA board. Hopefully everybody got a chance to come to the national convention. It was a great event. It took a lot of work and organization from your CHSAA board. We had hospitality rooms. Hopefully you had an opportunity to swing by and see us. A lot of great learning and activities went on down at the convention center. So thank you. Thank you for everyone that nominated your awards, your nominations. We had over 60 nominations. They're going to the CHSAA board right now. We're doing our evaluation of the letters of reference and everything like that. So we'll let our award winners know later this month. Anticipate looking for an email. I'm going to start looking for your scholarship nominees. We need to find your scholar athlete. You must be an NIAAA member, but I'll send out the information for that and start looking for your scholar athlete and let's get them nominated. If you have not paid your CHSAA dues yet, please help us out and help us with paying your CHSAA dues. Yesterday, you should have seen the update on the conference that should be out. It is not due the 28th of January. It is due on April 1st to avoid the fee. So please sign up. We are planning, we hedged our bets and it's looking like a pretty good bet now that we're going to do it in person up at Breckenridge. We have a full slate of great speakers. We have activities. And then best, we get to see each other and get to talk again. The conference will be April 30th through May 2nd. So please sign up. Last thing I would like to encourage you to do, we have some CHSAA board member spots open. We love to have representation from all across the state. So please, if you go to the CHSAA website, you can apply to be a board member. We love to have you on board. It's a volunteer organization. but we do the best. We are trying to help out our state and do the best we can with athletic directors. So love to have you be part of this group. All right, so thank you. Let us know if there's anything else Kata can do to help you in your job.
Awesome. Thanks so much. I would just like to take the opportunity to thank our partners. Every year at these outreaches, we try to just bring them either to you or be able to just say a couple words regarding them. And so huge shout out to our partners that have stayed with us through COVID, which is hard to do, especially when we're not meeting maybe the end of the contract that we need to with having to postpone events and those things. But they stayed true to us as they can see the value in athletics and activities within the community. And so I always encourage you to participate in those recognitions and awards. Thanks to Lane for his Monday updates, bringing that directly to your email. So you can just hit that link, fill that out, try to make it so you're not digging for it. But again, we truly just appreciate it. We know that those student athletes are walking the halls and could definitely meet the nomination criteria for those recognitions and scholarships. So huge thank you to our partners. We do have some major ones that we think are going to come into play for the next school year. So we're excited to kind of be back out getting in some new partners and bringing some things back into the community for all of us and to our members. So thank you so much. I'm going to turn it over to Bethany to kind of go through our speed round.
Okay, so we're on to a section that we've called administrative speed round, and we're just going over a couple of points of emphasis from the office. I'm going to start us off. We are celebrating the 50th year anniversary for Title IX this year, and so we've been doing quarterly equity and inclusion outreaches. Please put on your calendar April 13th at 9 a.m. We're going to be hosting a Zoom for athletic directors, Title IX coordinators, and anyone else that is interested to talk specifically about Title IX. We also are bringing in a Title IX expert, Peg Pennypacker from Wisconsin, a retired athletic director, and she also runs the NIAAA course on Title IX. And so if you have any questions, comments for her, need advice on whether you should add a sport or not, proportionality numbers, anything at all, she is going to be on. She's going to be answering any of our questions and will be a great resource for us. So again, we're celebrating the 50th year of Title IX. If there's anything that you and your schools can do to recognize your female student athletes, past, present, etc., we'd certainly encourage that. On to Rashawn.
Yeah, I just wanted to jump in and excuse me, talk about the activities directors summit that we had a couple of weeks ago. In our initial sign up, we had almost 100 activities directors, and the event was amazing. It was a great opportunity for us to get together and really talk about the role of an activities director and how that ties into the activities that we oversee through the office. And so just some really great dialogue, a chance to connect, a real opportunity to dig into what the bylaws look like and just talk a whole lot about some of the struggles and things that some activities directors were experiencing in their own role and how CHSAA could help. And so it really was just a great opportunity for us to connect with some folks who really didn't necessarily understand the role that CHSAA played in activities. So the one thing that came out of that was the opportunity that folks asked us to come back together again and make this at least a semi-annual event. And so we look forward to connecting with activities directors multiple times throughout the year and invite them to all of our activities. So they get a real opportunity to see one, kids in action, but two, kind of what the process looks like. So super excited moving forward with the activities directors. Thank you.
All right, so I want to jump in real quick and just share a little bit of information about wrestling and ball arena. Been getting several questions about that, so just wanted to take a quick second to share the information there. There is some information that is being changed by the city of Denver as far as what their protocols are. As of yet, that has not changed anything at Ball Arena. So we will see how the next 2 weeks go if we get any changes from Ball Arena. So currently those restrictions with Ball Arena require that anyone that enters the building have proof of a negative test within 72 hours or proof of vaccination. Now, the difference here is that your spectators and fans, when they walk in the front door, they will have to show that proof to get in. Your participants, so your coaches and your student athletes, so essentially your back of house, if you want to call it that, they will be able to go on as a school, you'll go on and certify they have that information. When you certify that, it'll be done via the CHSAA website. When you certify, that'll be the first thing they'll need to do when they check in the morning of the tournament. They'll come to the front doors there where they check in on that east side. We will confirm that they have the confirmation on our website. They will then move forward to get their team packets. There is no proof. There is no documentation that is needed on our end. I simply need you to go through and click the certify button. As long as your school shows up as certified, your student athletes and coaches will be good for the remainder of the tournament. Again, it's simply clicking a button on the link that will be provided the week of the tournament. Brad and Dan will be getting that built and up early the week of the tournament. So after you get through regionals and you have your qualifiers, look for that link early that next week. There'll be some minor changes to the format of the tournament as well. Just kind of be looking for a little bit different look in the finals. Really, the idea is we want to crank up the energy. We want to make sure that we give our kids the best experience possible in a championship environment. And so we're going to make a couple of changes to that finals event to really keep the energy as high as we can throughout the entire event. I did see a question real quick on what type of test. I just need you to click a certify button. That's kind of the easiest way I can answer that. So I'm not going to dive into what you did to certify and what kind of proof you had. I'm not asking for it, neither is Ballerina. So hopefully that kind of answers your question and gets it out there, what it is we're looking for, without having to go deep enough to say exactly what it is we're looking for. So again, just clicking the certify button is all you're going to need to do there. And if I don't see any other questions, look forward to seeing everybody there. I look forward to a great event, and we'll crown some champions. It'll be the first time the girls are in Ballerina, so it should be a good time.
Awesome. I just want to just kind of piggyback on just some great things happening within CHSAA with the new AD Connect and Corner. We've been working with CADA for a monthly meeting, the first Wednesday of every month, to kind of put together just kind of where we are and what's relative in that moment. We kind of broke those segments down, over those throughout seasons through the year. And so being able to stay connected through those connects has been great. Thank you to CADA for the content they have delivered and continue to share with creating some of those wheels, or sharing the wheels that have been created so they don't have to be recreated, just maybe tweaked. So we definitely appreciate those. We appreciate those who are able to be on and participate on those meetings, and those who can't, who definitely go back and take the time to kind of go through them. And we're hearing lots of good feedback. And so again, if you are interested, they are geared more towards the newer athletic directors, but a lot of great ideas and dialogue are coming out of those meetings. And we've had some veterans on there as well who are taking something away. So again, appreciate the work of CADA and just our participants and being able to help with that dialogue and really get some good thoughts and topics going. So appreciate that.
Yeah,
We are about.
Jenna, sorry, Rashawn. Jenna's a question on where they can find the recorded new AD Connect meetings.
Sure, under the new AD corner, which is under the information tab on CHSAA Now, you'll see a new AD corner, and all of those recordings are there. Thanks, Justin.
Yep.
Hey, Justin. Can I take a minute here?
Yeah, Tom.
Just what I'd like to share with the group. Good morning to everybody. Is my position and when that will be posted. So it's going to be done through a process of the board of director subcommittee. I'm talking about the assistant commissioner's job, which by title maybe is the assistant commissioner in charge of officiating. It may take on a different title, but that will be formalized at the February 9th Board of Directors meeting. And coming out of that, we'll have a timeline. And it looks like probably that will be done right around the end of March, which coincides when the new commissioner is hired. And And I think all of you know that the new commissioner will hire that particular position. Now, I say all that, that's just coming out of my head, but really it's going to be the subcommittee's decision on what the job description looks like and also what the timeline is. The second thing is I'd like for all of you to continue to be diligent and intentional around game management and sportsmanship, particularly as it pertains to officials. And just remember that the reason why we have a shortage of officials, one of the main reasons is poor sporting behavior. So be diligent in that regard. That's all I have.
All right, Rashawn, sorry we cut you off there, so want to turn it back over to you.
Oh, no worries. Thanks, man. I just wanted to say we are about a month away from the start of our music festival season, and it is going to be a great year. It's not too late for schools to sign up to host a festival. If you want more information on that, you can definitely reach out to us here in the office. If you want to see the current schedule, it is up on the CHSAA Now website. But otherwise, we're looking forward to a great season, and again, still plenty of room for you to sign your school up to host. So looking forward to that.
Okay, I'm up. I know earlier I made the joke about being a lame duck, but truly I'm committed to the transition process internally. And one of those, I sent an email last week, was the rehiring of Sarah Vernon Bruner. I would like to thank the membership for your patience. It was a rocky 3 months between September and December to try to have our director of finance kind of grasp the membership's financial needs and issues. I want to give him kudos for what he brought to the table, but what we learned in that process was translating skill set and financial knowledge doesn't always translate to the roller coaster or the speed of this position. And so I had the opportunity to work with Sarah to get some things in place for not only our financials for state reporting and federal reporting, and turned on my charm and said, what do we need to do to get you back? Because it's not about me, it's about the association needs you. What she brought to the table during the pandemic was unmatched in terms of what we needed to get through. Number one, the pandemic. Number two, the lawsuit. And it was anybody who sits in this chair has to be able to feel comfortable and trust around the person who sits in that office. And so over the course of a 12-hour Saturday, we were able to negotiate her return. And I can't tell you what that means for the association moving forward. But also, if you look at the faces of everyone on this staff, I think they will see that as one of probably the best decisions I've made in probably the last year and a half, because Sarah was a part of our team, and we're just glad to have her back. So with that said, we've also positioned her to be more successful in that position. She has an MBA. Her departure earlier was based around she didn't want to just be the financial director that processed courtesy cards and membership fees and dues. She wanted a bigger role in forecasting how the association would move forward. And so we have transitioned her into some different positions within the office, which she will take over tournament and playoff. She will be the number 2 for myself as we move forward with the budget committee, but also for the new commissioner, giving you reports at the Legislative Council around budgeting. And we are going to continue to look at ways that her expertise can be used to move the association forward in the financial space. And also within that transition, we're going to be bringing on a independent contractor to work with her 1 day a week to do just minimal data input. And so know that per her leaving our office, we had the opportunity to look at that position and say it's no longer a bookkeeper's position. And if we're going to bring someone in, we need to make sure that that job position has all of the successful components to really leverage the skill set of the person that would sit in a chair. So although, again, that I said about being a lame duck, part of my transition too is also including assistant commissioners in emails and waiver decisions that I'm making. We're just trying to make sure that there's just not one point person at this time, so that when the new commissioner does come in, whether that's an internal hire or an external hire, that they are surrounded by staff members, strength of staff members that can help support them in the onboarding and transition of the job. So there's a lot of things going on internally with shifting job duties and delegation of duties, so that next person, that next commissioner walks into a pretty stable environment in terms of having the support systems to just get going on July 1st. So I want to say welcome back to Sarah. We had to do a priority list yesterday as a staff because obviously she has a lot on her plate and on her desk from not having a financial person since December. So give us a little time. I know that the membership has some needs. We've included those in our priority list. But before we start bombarding her, let's let her get herself stationed again back into the position. So again, I thank you for your patience. I know with tournament and playoff, there's many schools that still need to have a remittance of a check from their football as well as volleyball playoffs. And we have some invoices that still need to go out. So let Sarah and I get together and we'll be responding to you and to those in the next week. So thank you with that. We are ahead of schedule. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, because we really want you all to interact. And I think we'll see more of that when we get to the proposals and the committee reports. But we're going to keep rolling. We had scheduled a break in there because we were supposed to start the proposals around 10, I think that was, or 10:30, but we're ahead of schedule. So we're going to keep rolling. If you do need us to take a break, please put that in the chat. We don't have a problem with that, but I'm getting Rhonda, let's keep rolling on my text messages. So that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to turn it over to Bethany right now. We're going to transition into beginning the proposal, bylaws, and the committee reports. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rhonda. I totally spaced Justin on the administrative speed round, so I'm going to just punt it back to Justin real fast.
No worries. And Rhonda did mention it there at the end, and she kind of alluded to Sarah Werner-Brunner coming back on to the staff. She did also mention that Sarah will be taking over the TP&F committee, which is fantastic. And so we have heard from the membership. We understand that there's maybe some issues with that TP&F form, and Sarah's going to be looking over that to make sure. I think the important thing is that we have some consistency among all the sports. I think that's the most important thing. And so Sarah will sit down with Rhonda and then each of us with all of our sports to make sure that we have a more user-friendly form and something that we can get out to you that is a little bit more consistent, that you guys will like and be able to use without having to call us with 100 million questions. So that's our intent. If you have any feedback or suggestions, please feel free to reach out to any one of us. I know Sarah's got a lot on her plate. You could try reaching out to her maybe in a few weeks as she settles back in. But feel free to talk with us. And if there's some things that you've seen while filling out those TP&F forms, we want that feedback so that ultimately we can get to a place with that form that is better fits your needs. So that's it.
Awesome. Thank you, Justin. And yes, I want to echo that we are all very excited that Sarah is back. Jumping right into the proposed bylaws and committee reports, just a reminder that this is a first look at the bylaws and our proposals and committee reports. Know that you as a league still have until March 11th to submit a bylaw change. So if something comes up, I know even internally in the office, we're going to meet on a couple of bylaws to discuss them later this afternoon. There is still plenty of time, March 11th, to submit that bylaw change through the Our School platform. Right now, we're going to jump into the constitutional proposals. Go ahead, Rhonda.
Okay, thank you. And I'm in a tag team with Ernie Durer on this because we work together to, we kept hearing from the membership about 2 legislative council meetings, and we're still looking at that. And I've heard that there might be a proposal from one of our leagues, but we looked at why we would need a second legislative council. One of our ADs reached out and said, you know, in the last 2 years, we've seen a decrease in the amendments to proposals, as well as a decrease in the amendments to committee reports. And I do believe that is because we do have a roundtable. We're not reactively voting on proposals in January and then turning around in April and changing those committee reports. We have given ourselves from January all the way until the April Legislative Council meeting to edit committee reports, to edit proposals, to get with CHSAA and do a CHSAA outreach. You have an opportunity with your leagues to then discuss those proposals. So at the April meeting, we have been more educated on what we are voting on that impacts how the association does business moving forward. But Ernie and I and the handbook committee, as well as the board of directors, had some appeals with last minute changes. And we wanted to make sure that those had an opportunity to come before the legislative council so that the membership had an opportunity to vote on those changes. So Constitution 1 is basically the exception that the legislative council shall also meet each January, even years, to consider and vote on league and classification revisions as recommended and approved by the Classification, Appeals, and League Organizing Committee. So the clock committee would meet, those appeals would come to the clock committee, they would submit a report, and then in that even year of the legislative council that would be tied also to a roundtable, the legislative council would have the ability to approve the clock committee report with those appeals to leagues, as well as any classification changes. So that's really the pros of that, is it allows our schools and leagues to receive a final decision on their placement for the next cycle, so that they can start to schedule prior to the beginning of the next whatever upcoming cycle that would be. So I think this is a movement in the right direction, and it also gives the legislative council the ability to put that final touch or that statewide approval on any changes that would come from a committee report. So I'm going to mute myself and pass the baton to Ernie so that he can provide any additional clarification.
Thank you, Rhonda. I don't know that there's really a whole heck of a lot more to talk about with that. You know, the handbook committee and the board of directors did recognize that with the change to what we were doing as far as when we're taking attendance counts, enrollment counts to use for classification, which is our primary consideration for classification, there was a significant period of time between when we were taking that count and when we were actually going into the cycle where that count was being used. And because of that, we noticed that there were a lot of appeals that weren't going to be heard if we didn't have the second legislative council meeting in January. So every other year during the even years allows us to consider everything that the clock committee hears in November of the odd years, so that we can more closely, well, I wouldn't say more closely, so that we're better off in making sure we get our member schools in the right classifications. Pretty much unanimously agreed upon by the handbook committee and the board of directors that a second meeting was needed at least every other year on the even years. I won't comment on we do know that there is a league that is out there that will be bringing forth the different proposal, but I'll leave that to them when that proposal actually comes forth officially. So that should do it. Thank you, Rhonda.
Any questions or comments? Okay.
All right, next we'll look at our coach and sponsor registration. Just a couple of changes here and kind of the rationale behind that. The first one is that coaches need to be registered in the platform by the first official practice. That's a change from the first contest. Essentially, I would boil this down to simply liability, and you are making sure that your coaches have gone through and completed everything. You don't have a coach running a practice that isn't CPR certified, concussion certified, etc. So you have a liability piece that's taken care of by knowing all of your coaches by the first time they go to practice have completed the registration. The second change is that all coaches would attend, or excuse me, participate in the rules meeting. These rules meetings are housed on the Our School platform. It's very easy for our coaches to click on it, watch it, and participate. We all know that at times, whether you're a head coach or an assistant coach, you may have the opportunity to become vocal at a contest. It would only make sense that all of our coaches who have the opportunity to potentially be vocal at least understand what the rules changes were for this year in the sport they're coaching. So again, it is an extra piece, but it's simply during the registration process, they can click on that link in the Our School, watch the video, and therefore be certified having watched the rules meeting. So those are the two changes to what this proposal is. Any questions or comments? All right, thanks, guys.
All right, next we're talking about ADM 2. Rhonda, I will turn that over to you. That NCAA long speak.
And again, I'm going to defer to one of the submitters from the league, but my understanding is that they would like to pull this proposal from the packet and for consideration to the Legislative Council. But if one of Ernie, maybe you can come on again, since you have permission to let us know if that is indeed correct, and we won't need to discuss it further. Thank you.
That is indeed correct, Rhonda. After speaking with other leagues and doing some more speaking within our own leagues, NCAC and the Long Speak League have decided to pull this proposal from the packet.
Great, thank you. On to ADM 3, Justin.
Yeah, thanks, Bethany. So, we try to go through the bylaws and really clean up, I guess, what I would say where the staff was giving sort of common sense interpretations to maybe some black and white language in the bylaws that our interpretations went against that language. And this is a prime example here. And so in 1710, you'll see the sentence there that's scratched out, at least 3 college credit approved academic courses. And that refers to a senior student enrolled in college courses in their second semester. And so we were getting phone calls that, maybe a student was taking 3 credit courses, or maybe they were taking some courses that included a lab or whatever it might be. And we were giving interpretations that, yeah, okay, they've got, they're a full-time student. They've got the required number of credits, whatever it might be. But the school would say, well, they don't have 3 college credit level courses. And so we were giving interpretations pretty consistently as a staff that maybe didn't vibe with the exact language. So we met with the board of directors, talked about that, and just said, you know what? Let's just scratch that line out of the bylaw, make it simpler, put it more at the local level on the decision-making process. And if you have questions, you can reference us. And obviously then we wouldn't be forced to maybe give an interpretation that didn't mirror exactly the wording that was in the bylaw. So that's all that we're trying to do there. And if you have any questions on that, feel free, again, raise your hand, put it in the chat, and we can discuss further. But pretty straightforward. And again, as Ernie mentioned, with some other bylaw proposals, unanimous approval by the handbook committee. So I'm seeing none, and I've got the next one as well. So I'll just move on to that. So ADM, I believe, is it 4, Bethany? ADM 4? Okay.
Yep.
All right. So ADM 4 is talking about the regain dates in the fall. So again, going through the bylaws, we found, again, some inconsistencies. This was another place. And just as an example, looking at the fall regain dates for some sports we had, and if you look at your packet, you'll notice some big changes with softball. So softball athletes were sitting out close to 80% of their season with the regain date, whereas a sport like golf, boys golf, was sitting out far fewer. And so what we wanted to do was go through each sport individually and look for some consistency there. Again, that's going to be probably the buzzword today, consistency, and making sure that we had everyone sitting out a like percentage of their season. And so that's all we did there. You'll see the changes highlighted in bold, the new weeks that they will then be able and eligible to regain on those weeks. And you'll see that it's consistent throughout each sport. There was some debate with the handbook committee on the final percentage that we were going to agree on there. And eventually we looked at percentage in the neighborhood of about 35% of the season. And so what we did was went through the start date to the end of the regular season and find a week that got right around that 35% of the season with each sport. So.
There is a question in the chat, Justin, that just came in. How come fall athletes sit half, but winter and spring barely sit out at all? They regain within the first 1 to 3 weeks.
I would leave that. I think, Bethany,
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So the fall regain date is for those student athletes that were ineligible from the second semester. And so they had an opportunity to do summer school to regain. And so a couple of years ago, it used to be just one date, but a couple of years ago it was addressed that there were some inconsistencies, and so we changed so that each sport would have a date. From that point on, the regains dates have just echoed that same pattern. Is there any other questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll turn it over to ADM 5. Rhonda? Oh, sorry, there's one more in the Q&A. Justin, why did gymnastics not get adjusted? Their season ends before volleyball and has a later regain date.
So the percentage of the season is the same based on sort of when the start date is and when the end date of the season is. So I think
basically gymnastics was spot on, but the rest of the sports needed
correct. Yeah, gymnastics already fell within that 35% based on the start and the finish of their season.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bethany. In your final packet, you will have an edited version of the name, image, and likeness. And it really just, the change was in the rationale, and it was to take out any references to any national proposals or other state association proposals, and really just own our own bylaw with the name, image, and likeness. This is just one of the bylaws or proposals that I mentioned earlier, where the handbook committee and the board are getting in front of the questions that are out there. But the rationale now will read, this is just a proactive bylaw to align with the recent decisions at the NCAA level that would impact our amateur status bylaw. And it provides written direction on what would be allowable under the NIL, aligned with education-based participation. And then the language remains the same. So it's really just providing our membership, our students, our parents, some of the agents that are out there already, bringing our kids in and having conversations with some of our more high-profile student athletes about what would be allowable under the amateur status rule. Are there any questions around this? Thank you.
Okay. Okay, great. The next one is Athletic 1 basketball rosters. When I inherited basketball this year, I just noticed some inconsistencies with published documents. One was between the bulletin and the bylaws. And truly, this bylaw proposal is just to see what the membership wants when it comes to basketball rosters. The past couple of years, we have allowed 14 players in the postseason to sit on the bench, and our bylaws indicate 12. So this bylaw proposal would allow, would increase that number from 12 to 14 for the playoffs. With that being said, if the membership thinks that 14 is too much and they vote this down, then all written documents will go back to 12 and we'll have a consistent message. Any questions? Okay, seeing none, we're going on to Athletic 2, skiing. Basically, we're just changing some wording in the competition season because skiing is a difficult sport to find venues, and there are times where competition needs to continue after the state championship. It's very unique to skiing, and our ski competitors only physically compete in about 4 events per year, so it's pretty small. But basically, there's just a note that competition can continue to, or that competition can continue to happen after the state championships, just based upon venue availability. Any questions about skiing? All right, thank you. Jen, you're still muted. You were on it though.
Thanks so much. Looking at the spirit of sport, or the season of sport for spirit, and just looking to do some clarification within that bylaw. Really, what it was saying is that at the end of the competition is kind of when the season ended. We all know that we kind of moved through basketball and some even into spring. So we kind of reworded that to reflect that, and is also leaving that discretion up to you at the school, local level, district level, to see how far you take that season. So we just want to make sure, no matter what the program is, that if they're rolling into winter or spring, that they're still abiding by the bylaws and the expectations within the bulletin. Any questions regarding season of sport for spirit? Awesome, thank you.
Great, seeing none, we'll turn it over to Chris Roberts, who is our tennis committee chair, AKA Bob Ross.
Sorry about that. I was trying something new. I'll speak to the proposal that we wrote as Pikes Peak Athletic Conference. Just wanted to allow people scheduling flexibility. I think some schools have done some good things in creating less impact on kids educationally by tweaking their tournament format. The problem is once you separate tournaments out into 2 different Saturdays, for example, it counts against you in your schedule as 2 tournaments. So this proposal just allows the same number of total contests we've always had, which is 12, but it would allow you to schedule 4 tournament dates and then have the remaining duels. The math works the same. It's the same number of total contests. And that's it. Pretty simple. So you can now schedule 8 duels and 4 tournaments and then work back to 12 matches or 12 duels and no tournaments. Questions?
I don't see any. I do want to say that the tennis committee does support this bylaw change as well. So thank you, Chris, for writing it.
That.
Moving on to Athletic 5, boys volleyball. This is the 2nd year of boys volleyball, but truly the first regular season. And what we're finding is that the season is extremely short. And so this bylaw proposal would allow the season to start 1 week earlier, so week 34. And this would actually align with boys swimming and diving. And so as such, in the committee report that I'll go over later, we are also recommending that the end of the season be pushed back a week as well. So boys volleyball is desperately in need. With 23 contests and extremely short season, they're having to play close to 4 matches a week right now. And so we're really trying to help this new and emerging sport by allowing more opportunities during the regular season. Any questions? All right.
So I have our esports, and esports is coming along. And again, we go online officially in the fall. And so for us, it was a great opportunity to establish a baseline for eligibility, for schools to adopt a stricter standard and to define amateur status specifically for esports as it is through the rest of the bylaws. So again, we'll look to continue to add to some of the bylaws around esports as we progress. But this definitely gives us a great start point. Any questions? Up next, student leadership. And student leadership, again, one of our big areas of emphasis was on establishing the stricter standard portion of the bylaws into student leadership. A lot of schools would ask that we somehow have some baseline for belonging, and so we put that in as a start point. We also wanted to be able to clear up some terminology as we've kind of changed some of the events and as they're written into the student leadership portion, and also to clarify what the state representatives' roles and responsibilities looked like.
I did have one question. Sorry, Rashawn, to interrupt. Paul Kane, going back to esports, why is passing classes not part of eligibility?
Say that again. Why is passing classes?
Correct. Why is passing classes not part of eligibility? I'm happy to jump in. Paul, it's because esports is an activity and it's aligned with music, speech, and student leadership. And so they're required to be enrolled in a minimum number of classes, but they are not treated as an athletic sport because they are not one. Rashawn, did I speak out of turn or?
No, that is absolutely correct. My apologies. I didn't understand the question, but yes, that's absolutely correct. If there are no other questions on esports or student leadership, pass it back to you, Bethany.
Okay. We're on to the committee reports. Rhonda, budget.
Bethany, I saw something. Was there something from Ernie in the chat and it said Bethany, so I'm not sure.
I'll wait until he types it in. I say you go ahead, Rhonda.
For this first legislative roundtable, we wanted to get you a report. The budget committee will meet a second time prior to the April meeting for your vote. But I always think it's good to give you a preview of where we are prior to that so that there is some discussion topics. But one of the major changes that won't change for the final report is that the membership and participation fees will remain at 2.5% through 2023 through 2024 as we continue to recover from some of our loss of income through the last 2 years with the pandemic and the capacity limitations that we all operated under last year with 2021. And that rationale actually came from the committee about this is our association. It's not just the people in Aurora. And when we aren't trying to raise ticket prices, parking, and all of those things to recover, a 2.5 is really only a 1% of what would have already been in place. So other than that, We will present our final audit for the final reading to the Board of Directors on February 9th, and that will also be a part of the final April Legislative Council Budget Committee report, as well as posted on the website. Can you continue to say about transparency? You can always go on the website after every board meeting. When the budget is approved, we post the budget for public as well as the membership to view where we are budgetary wise. And so those tabs were created within the last 4 years. So we do want to make sure that we continue to have transparency with the membership around where we are budgetary wise. So that's it on the budget report, and there'll be a final report in April.
I don't see any questions, Adam, so go ahead.
All right. We'll wait for the, there we go. Okay, Coaches Education Committee report. First off, just thanks to our members of the committee. We had some good conversations. We don't have any action items coming forward this year. We did spend some time discussing where we want to go with some potential coaches, education as far as going around some professional development for our coaches. Also looking at some potential beefing up of that first year coaches course and working with our partners at CHSAA and how we may be able to increase some awareness and be intentional about what we're sharing with our first year coaches. And then we also had some discussion around the You Can Play and the Sports Equity Foundation, believing that there's an opportunity for us to incorporate messaging from that group into our coaches education as well, with some of the changes as far as having all coaches need to watch the rules meeting and things like that. We didn't want to add another layer to our coaches this year, but these are things we're discussing going forward to make sure that we're continuing to improve our coaches and thus improve the experience for our student athletes. So with that, any questions? All right.
Let's see any. All right, esports, Rashawn.
Esports simply established the season calendar of 2 seasons, a fall and a spring season, and the games that we would play. And of course, it established who those committee members would be. Any questions?
Okay, moving on to Tom.
Yeah, officials fees, major committee report. As you look at A in the document, it's important to just look at the cycles as they're presented. So in 2020, a $6 travel stipend was approved and has taken place for 2 cycles. At the same time, it was mentioned that for the 2022-2024 cycle, the $6 stipend would go to 10. So as we start for the new school year in 2022, there'll be a $10 travel stipend, and this is in the metro areas of Denver and Colorado Springs. So it's a definite increase and something new to the committee report, but was something that was mentioned back in 2020. The other major change is and it continues to be a change until 2029, and that's a 2% cost of living adjustment that is added to fees each year. So these look like reminders, but you vote on these at the Legislative Council, and hopefully you do so. So those are the 2 major changes, significant.
Okay, so in the chat, there's been a request, Tom, to drop a link to the officials fee schedule into the chat. Can someone please do that? That's a good suggestion. And then also to back up, Rashawn, there was a question for you about fees for esports. Are there fees? Are the fees changing for esports is the question.
The fees will probably change for esports as we head into the new year. We'll post that as early as we possibly can. But yeah, look forward to a little bit of a fee change moving forward.
Bethany.
Go ahead, Tom. And
Yeah,
Leroy just popped it in, so thank you,
There's
Leroy.
somebody, and also included in the officials fees report at the end is also a hard copy of the officials fees.
Okay, thank you so much. And Leroy, thanks for popping that in. My pages must have stuck together, so I apologize, you guys. We're going to jump back to equity. Thank you so much to Derek Cheney for being my committee chair. We have no major changes, but I did want to echo what Adam and his coaching committee did mention about the You Can Play and the diversity and inclusion coaching component. We had the opportunity to sit in and be Colorado as a pilot state for this inclusive coach content. And so we hosted it at CHSAA. There was also an opportunity for your coaches to attend a Nuggets game for Pride Night and to receive that same amazing content. And just know that some really cool things and great inclusive work is coming. And again, like Adam, we don't want to add to the plates of our extremely busy coaches, but we do feel that this is very important. And so we're just giving you guys a heads up that good work is happening. And if you are looking for some sort of inclusion training for your coaches, reach out to Derek or I, and we can connect you with Micah Porter as well as the You Can Play group, and they will be happy to bring someone out and to do the training for you. With that being said, no other major changes for equity. And so moving forward after officials fees.
Cross country, I think, is up next. So
awesome.
No major changes for cross country. Just always a huge thank you to Chris Roberts and Cheyenne Mountain community for putting that on. It's a huge event and takes a few days to set up for that, and we truly appreciate that. We are slated to be there through 2023. So we'll open up that bid process here this next year. And then looking, it continues to come up at the committee meeting, just 1A and a classification and what that looks like. And so the committee really wanted to collect some data. So those are just some informational items, but no major changes at this time. Any questions? I don't see any questions pertaining to cross country, so moving on.
Okay, we'll go back to music. Rashawn?
I do want to begin by thanking Kevin Bieber, our committee chair, for just a really great job stepping in and all the work he's done. The one thing that we did look at was being able to host festivals on Saturday. And that was just a general conversation, but it gave the committee an opportunity to really create a little bit more of an opportunity for schools to host. But otherwise, no major changes.
Seeing no questions, on to leadership, Rashawn?
Student leadership, again, Alice Stoneback, our chair, great job on her part, and no major changes, but again, that clarification of the role of student leaders, or state representatives, I should say. The committee tossed that around a bunch and clarified some roles and responsibilities as they relate to the students who sit on some of our internal committees. So that is all. Any questions?
Okay, great. Justin.
All right, field hockey. We have a few major changes. The first of which is beginning fall 2022, the addition of 4 rostered players in uniform that'll be added to the gate list. Again, just looking for consistency. We just tried to mirror soccer. We felt like field hockey and soccer were very similar. And so field hockey had fewer athletes allowed on the gate list than soccer did. Tried to make it consistent and added a few there in field hockey. Second major change will be to the mercy rule, which will no longer include removing players from the field when a certain goal differential is achieved. We just didn't feel like that needed to happen. You don't see it in other sports. You don't take players off the field in football or basketball. We were one of the few states in the nation that actually had it was happening in field hockey and soccer, where we were taking players off the field. So we try to be consistent, not only among sports, but among other states. And then a change to the overtime procedure as well. We're going to a golden goal. It was a little bit confusing, I think, for some in overtime where a goal was scored and people thought the game was over, not realizing that you had to play the entire 10-minute period. That's not what happens in the NCAA. It's not what happens in most major field hockey organizations. And so we changed to mirror that. And so now our overtime procedure again will be the golden goal. So the first team to score will win. And then you're going to see this theme kind of throughout with many sports, though, that we, you guys may know we created that, or the board of directors created that committee to figure out what the best process would be to capture the tournament bracket moving forward. And that subcommittee decided that a 50-50 split of max preps and RPI was the best tool that we had available to us to capture the bracket. And so as sports, we just wanted to be consistent and say, well, if that committee felt like this is the best way to get the teams into the bracket, why would we not use that to also seed the bracket? Currently we've got a different process to capture and seed. It was a little bit confusing. People would see themselves in the bracket maybe, or in the RPI, and they're seated 4 and 5, and all of a sudden the bracket's released and they're 8 or 9, and there was questions coming in. Why are we there? And so different sports, maybe we're using some different tools as far as maybe the coaches poll not being as consistent. And so we said, you know what, let's just go to the same process. We'll capture the bracket. We'll seed the bracket using the exact same formula. I think it'll clear a lot of things up. It'll be a lot less convoluted, and we'll just get a better process with fewer questions at the end. So I want to thank Lance McCorkle, who was our committee chair for field hockey, on the great work that he did. We've got quite a few changes to the sport, all of which I think help elevate it to the next level. So.
Okay, thank you, Justin. Seeing no questions. Golf, Tom?
Yeah, there is a couple of major changes to golf. In A, it's really that a minimum of 6 18-hole rounds need to be played in order to establish an I-Wanamaker ranking. The last time the report was submitted, it was 8 18-hole rounds. So it's been reduced to 6. That's all that needs to be played. Also, all the rounds need to be played to get the I-Wanamaker ranking by three weeks prior to the regional, and it's the Monday prior at 7 p.m. So just some clarifications on when those rounds need to be completed. But they are major changes. Also in that paragraph A, it just talks about the top 8 I-Wanamaker ranked 3A and 4A teams will be determined at that time. So it's just those two classifications. One exception and was brought to the committee that with the girls season and weather, that it's so unpredictable sometimes that although it says 6 18-hole rounds are needed, the committee will have the opportunity to change the number of rounds depending on the number of recorded rounds that are in the system. It will go to the committee and they'll decide how many rounds will be appropriate. So that's the major change in A. In B, the committee looked at exemptions to state and came up with probably what will be a rare exception, and that's if any players in the top 6 IWR regular season ranking in that top 6 group, they will be exempted to state as long as they play in the regional tournament. So they must play in the regional tournament, and then they must have a ranking that's in the top 6. It'll be a rare occasion that any player will be exempted. Most coaches feel that it just won't happen if it's that caliber of player. So those are the 2 major changes for golf. Any questions?
I don't see any questions, Tom. I know that there is an amendment. Go ahead, Ben.
Okay.
So the amendment comes from the NCAC. What we have proposed is that we add slope and rating to I Wanamaker, which kind of balances out all the courses around the state using those two criteria. At that point, you can get the best 84 golfers if you have a mandated 6 rounds of play for all golfers around the state. 3 to 4 golfers per team would qualify your school for the team state championship. And we believe that this takes away the 1-day qualification after an entire season of play and puts it into a season-long qualification.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Ben or for Tom regarding golf?
Yeah, I'd like to comment if I could. All right. It's interesting that this is the first time I saw the proposal for the first time yesterday in the packet. And so our committee has not seen it. This would be the first time that they see it as well. It was submitted, I think, in December. Our committee meeting was in October. And what I would do as the commissioner of the sport would just offer my insights into this proposal and then allow the committee to deliberate and decide the merits of the proposal. What I don't see in the proposal right off is the cons of this proposal. I think the pros are there, right? Would be no need for a regional tournament, therefore there'd be no cost to it. In theory, you're going to get the 84 best golfers to state. And so my response is into actually, is it possible that we'll get the best 84 golfers through this process? Early on with golf, we were reacting to trying to get the top 10 players into state, and we created a mechanism that our schools could submit scorecards, and because we didn't have the wherewithal that we do now with I Wanamaker, that they could submit those scorecards of their players, and those scores would be tabulated, and then we would come up with a top 10 ranking. That particular system really failed and was a disaster. The main reason is that there was no accountability to the regular season events. And that would be my concern again. And it's all about regular season, nothing more, nothing less. The reason that the regional takes on, the fact that the regional takes on so much importance is the reason why I feel it needs to stay. At that regional, there's more attention to the scores that are submitted. There's more scrutiny by coaches and players. There's just a significant uptick in terms of how scores are used, submitted, and then qualify individuals to state. It is a reality that during the regular season, there is less attention to detail in that regard. And so that's the first blush that I see in terms of the regional. I know there's a cost to it. It is so significant that so many coaches feel like it puts so much pressure on their players to be successful. It's just something that is kind of been ingrained in that particular event. And so to do without it would be I think a detriment to the process, and getting the best 84 golfers would be really very, very questionable. And I'm not talking about, or didn't want to necessarily talk about, sometimes the cheating that goes on, or the looking at the leaderboard and changing scores. All those things take place if there's not enough scrutiny to how those scores are submitted. Maybe at some point later on, this is a possibility because we do have the I Wanamaker system. We've got golfer only scoring. We've got scores in each pairing. So we're working through that. We're in the third season of that. And that in itself is not up to 100%. There are ways that we can track how scores are submitted and if a scorer is actually scoring. But even now in some of our regional events, that doesn't take place. So it puts a lot of faith in that those regional events will be up to snuff and could present the best possible. I think it's important to know that with golf, how it works, right? So you have 4 regionals and you qualify 21 golfers. That's how you get to the 84. There's a catchphrase that says that for each region, there are 2 full teams and 13 individuals not on a team. That again, adding up to the 21 qualifiers. It's the 2 full teams that we're really talking about here that will be eliminated through this process. And that is the 4th golfer on those full teams, right? Can only qualify if they are within 10 strokes of the 13th golfer. That's the contention of I think, in terms of this proposal. And it's just my initial reaction since I saw it for the first time yesterday. What that does is if you do the math, that's eight qualifiers included in that group of 4 of the 4th golfers. So there's 8 of them. So you have 84 golfers, and if you subtract 8 qualifiers from each region, 2, 4, 6, 8, we've got 3 regions, we've got 24 golfers that are added in. Those are the golfers we're talking about. We crown the top 10 golfers. We give them medals, and that's where we think that the cutoff is good. So we're looking at it as a team sport with an individual component, but we really identified the top 10. So somewhere in that mix, there seems to be a need for the 84 best golfers, and so that's what this proposal is. If successful, would actually do. And so it's really a small number that get added in. They have to be within 10 strokes of the 13th qualifying golfer. And if I might say that in 5A, it's becoming less and less that requirement has to be invoked. It's only at 3A and 4A. So I think just getting back to the whole concept of that regional tournament, it is the one place that has the most impact in terms of making sure that we get the best scores submitted to the event. So anyway, those would be my remarks. I'll give those remarks to the committee and then let them deliberate, but I'll send that out after this meeting, and then I'll be able to tell you if what's the committee's vote on that proposal.
Thank you so much for your comments, Tom. It has prompted some discussion in the chat. So I'm just going to read some of the comments, and then if you want to speak further on it, feel free to raise your hand. I know Chris Roberts' hand was up, but now it's down. So Robert Framel spoke first and said that he feels that the current proposal or the NCAC proposal, it would hurt someone who has improved a ton and then they don't get credit and it doesn't have that opportunity to advance. Then there's a couple comments in the Q&A. One from Chris Roberts that says, if cheating is a problem in the regular season, then why would we allow the top 6 to qualify? They cheat all season and then shoot +20 at the regionals when scrutiny exists and still qualify. And then Eric Johnson said, we already have sports like track and swimming that allow for in-state season qualification. The golf proposal being discussed would seem to follow that line of thinking to me. Any comments from you, Tom, or anyone that wants to elaborate?
Yeah, Chris Roberts is correct. And so at every stage of trying to get the right golfers into the tournament, right, we ratchet up the accountability. So I can't deny that would happen. That I think that's just a comment that there's still the possibility, but there's less and less of it that actually occurs when you get to regionals and to state. It's just been a fact. And so I think that's a credit to coaches and to players that know how important it is to qualify. I'm not quite sure I think Eric is in support of the other proposal or the proposal that was submitted. And it's simply based on how we do other events. And so I'm just giving you information about golf.
Thank you so much, Tom. Any other comments, questions? Okay, thank you. Jen, you're up with gymnastics.
Thanks, Bethany. So gymnastics, no major changes. I would just bring attention to those who have gymnastics to the informational items. Some of those did roll over from last year, as some of that is still new information, but no major changes at this time for gymnastics. And a huge thank you to those hosting regionals and working through all that process to prepare us for state. So thank you so much.
Questions? All right, seeing none. Justin, soccer?
Yeah, so soccer, we've got 5 changes on this year's committee report. You'll see the first one again goes back to the mercy rule, which will, similar to field hockey, will no longer include removing players from the field when a certain goal differential is achieved. And again, that's just consistency. We don't see that in other sports. We don't see that across the nation with other states removing players. So the soccer committee felt that having to take players off the field just was not the best for Colorado. The game minimums added to all classifications. Currently, two-way was the only classification that had a game minimum, and that was a 12-game minimum. The soccer committee felt that it was necessary to add a game minimum to all classifications. And so now you will see a 12-game minimum to 2A through 5A classifications. Now, we did feel like it was important to add the wording in there that a reasonable attempt to play all games would be made. We understand that depending on where you are in the state, your travel might be a little bit more. As an example, if you're on the Western Slope, maybe you get a game canceled. It's not as easy for you to reschedule and maybe get with your opponent as it would be in the Denver metro area. So we do have that wording that a reasonable attempt would be made, and that understanding that if something were to happen out of the ordinary that prevented you from getting to that 12-game minimum, that would be considered as well. We've also got the addition of 2 non-rostered personnel on the gate list. I think the soccer committee saw maybe what the field hockey committee was doing and adding a few. There was no added players to the gate list, but we added non-rostered personnel. I think they wanted to get that consistent with other sports. And so you'll see some sports that have some additional non-rostered people, coaches, trainers, etc., videographer that were allowed on that gate list. Soccer was pretty low in that number. And so we got that number up to 7 to mirror some other sports. Beginning fall of 2022, I think this is probably our biggest change that the committee is putting forward. The number of automatic qualifiers in the postseason will be adjusted to 1 automatic qualifier for all leagues. And the consideration is still, if you've got a league of 3 or more, you would be granted that automatic qualifier. Currently, leagues of 3 to 6 get 1, 7 or more get 2. The committee felt like obviously representation from across the state was very important, and we wanted the automatic qualifier to come out of each league. That will still happen, but I believe soccer was the only sport still granting multiple auto qualifiers from a league, and so we try to get that in line with other sports and just granting 1 auto qualifier into the postseason from each league. And then the rest will be determined using the new formula of 50% max preps, 50% RPI to get your at-large and complete the bracket. And then beginning fall 2022, again, you saw it in field hockey. You'll continue to see this theme throughout in other sports, but we will mirror the seeding and capture process will be the same. Again, that committee felt like the best way to capture a bracket was 50% RPI, 50% max preps. If that's the best way to capture, then we felt like that is also the best way to seed. And we will do that to keep consistency, transparency throughout the season so people know where they will fall in the bracket at the end of the season.
Okay, any questions with soccer? All right, moving on to tennis. Two major changes. One, we created a dual team championship format, which is going to be separate from the individual state championship. And we are really excited about this. A huge thank you to the tennis committee and the individuals that were on the tennis subcommittee that met for over a year to discuss a lot of crazy tennis proposals and changes. There was a lot for the tennis committee to chat about is this dual team championship. So right now we have 3 days of a state tournament, and that will continue to happen, except it's just going to be to award the individual state champion for each position. So team points will not be accumulated throughout that bracket. There will be a separate 16-team bracket that will be hosted by home sites and then culminated the Tuesday after the individual state championship, where both classifications for boys and all 3 classifications for girls will come together on a Tuesday and play the finals. It's very similar to what the NCAA is, and it truly emphasizes the importance and the excitement of a team atmosphere event. So it's going to be head-to-head to crown that team champion for each classification. That will start this fall. We also reviewed and revised the regional placements for all the teams in each classification, and that is an annual review. I will say, though, to take a close look at that, starting with the boys season, because we did something to try to balance geography as the primary consideration, along with some competitive equity. And that is something that the tennis committee really hasn't looked at in the past. And there certainly has been, and this is at the 4A level, there certainly has been some weaker regional competitions and weaker regionals in general. And so the committee took the top 16 finishers from last year's state and ensured that every regional had one of the top 8 teams and another team that was somewhere between 9 and 16. We tried to keep geography as the primary consideration, but there are a couple teams that will have to travel more than they are used to. So please take a look at that. We really modeled that off of a wrestling model, where you looked at last year's state finish and also tried to combine equity and geography. We know it's impossible to make everyone happy, but at the same time, we did want to look at competitive equity really for the first time with tennis. With that being said, I also wanted to make note that UTR, this Universal Tennis Rating, which is a partnership with Max Preps, will be used starting next fall as a part of the seeding criteria. It's not going to be the only seeding criteria, but the committee did want to emphasize that it will be used as one of the criterias if it came down to looking to seed teams at state and potentially even regionals. So just encourage your coaches to please activate their accounts. It's free with UTR, and certainly the players need to activate their accounts as well moving forward. With that being said, any questions for the tennis committee report? Okay, great.
Great, thanks, Bethany. Moving on to track, no major changes for track. Again, utilizing this year to collect some data on a couple items, one being the girls 800 medley, and just the committee has been proposed a few times about the elimination of that. So getting some information regarding that, as well as looking at wind allowance that continues to come up. And so some data will be collected throughout the year regarding both of those. No major changes at this time. So any questions regarding track? Okay, Bethany, I think there is a question for you, so we'll go, do you want to answer that now?
Sure, I was just typing it into Paul, but yes, thank you. I can just speak it. The question with regards to tennis, how will those top 16 teams be selected? That is a great question. The tennis committee is going to get together and use every seeding criteria component possible to seed and select those top 16 teams. We're going to look at head-to-head, strength of competition, league finish, UTR, etc. And it's truly going to be one of those old-fashioned seeding committees where we're coming together, examining all the teams in that classification and selecting the top 16 teams. So it'll be on to the tennis committee.
Great, thank you. Moving over to unified bowling. So one major change, we're going to move from a 3-game format to a 5-game at both regionals and state, with the still continuing with the Baker's format. One of the greatest events that we do. It's just great to see the involvement, the growth. We encourage those schools who don't, or districts that don't have anybody represented, to please get involved. Happy to have conversations on what that looks like. Pretty simple to activate. Obviously with the biggest thing being your practice facility, but huge thank you to Chris, who's chaired that committee, and Special Olympics for all of their resources and guidance as we've moved forward. We will mandate that this year all regionals play in that same Baker's format, just to keep the consistency and help our athletes prepare for what they're going to see at state. So no other major changes besides that. Any questions regarding unified bowling?
Jen,
Dan,
go
Jen,
ahead.
Dan has a question on track and field.
Oh, okay.
So maybe if we can, Brad, can we unmute Dan Burke?
Sure. So we will look at those numbers. I think we've had bigger conversation of what North Fork looks like. So we will continue that as we get to clock, and we'll make those adjustments as needed regarding Paonia and Hotchkiss. Did you have something else?
No, I just wanted to make sure you saw that.
Yeah, we actually have you highlighted, so we know that
Okay.
that is a question for sure. Yep.
All right.
Thanks
No
for,
harm. Thank
for
you.
reaching out. Yep.
Okay, one
Any
more.
further questions for track or cross or unified bowling?
Yes, Mike Hughes and the Q&A, Jen.
Yeah, I talked to him.
Oh.
Yep.
Got it.
I think that was regarding gymnastics, so I think we're good there. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Moving on to volleyball. The major changes include a minimum number of teams in a league in order to automatically qualify that one league champion, and that for volleyball is 5. So a league must have a minimum of 5 teams in order to earn an automatic berth to regionals. We also, as others have mentioned, we are aligning our seeding criteria with the new CHSAA board policy, which is the 50% RPI, 50% max preps. I've kind of coined it the CHSAA selection and seeding index, but basically seeding for regionals for boys and girls will be done by this 50% mechanism. We also altered the boys volleyball state bracket from an 8-team Olympic crossover to an 8-team double elimination, with the final game as the championship game. So there's no if needed match. And that will start this spring. And then we also increased the number of qualifiers for regionals and boys only from 16 to 24. We are seeing some exciting growth with boys volleyball. And next year we'll have over 50 schools participating. So very excited with that. Those are all the major changes for volleyball. Okay, and then Paul Kane is on. He is going to talk about the directory app that he has created. So Paul, go ahead.
There was a question, Bethany. I believe it's on volleyball. 5 teams multi-class or 5 needed per class?
5 needed per class. Thank you for, I didn't see that. Thank you. Yeah, Gary, 5 teams per class. Thank you.
All right, am I up?
Paul, you are up. Oh, Dan Burke has a question too.
No.
Paul,
No,
okay,
I already got it.
Okay.
I'm fine.
Okay, great. Okay, Paul, you're on.
Okay, well, I was going to try to post, I've created a directory for CHSAA schools. In that directory, it's got cell phones, work numbers, leagues. It's got a map to each school, and it has, if I've got their athletic schedules, I got a link in there. I can share this. I'm hoping I can share this through the chat, but I might not be able to. I just tried it. But if you've got any requests for changes, let me know. I can update those. It's very easy to use. I've pushed it out to a bunch of people. I've gotten good feedback. If I got incorrect information, just email me, and it's really easy to fix. Brad, is there a way I can add a picture into the chat?
I don't think you can add a photo.
Okay.
No.
Yeah, it's not letting me. So can you push that out?
Sure.
I sent that to you, that QR code, or if somebody wants to, all you have to do is add the QR code, just add it to your home screen on your phone, and it will create an app. And as I make changes, if you swipe out and go back into it, it will make those changes. So is there anything else you need on that, Rhonda?
Mike Hughes already put in the chat that you're the man, but I'll just say thank you for really looking at the need for access to that information, but you'll have to look in the chat. Mike Hughes gave you a big shout out.
Can I jump off the agenda here and just piggyback onto Paul and take 2 minutes to go through the Our School directory and how schools can access that information? Okay, thank you. Brad, can I put you on can I share my screen? Is that possible, Brad? Sorry.
Yes, just 1 second.
I'm so sorry.
Oh.
There we go. Oh. I think you have to stop sharing.
Yes, you're right.
So one of the things that came up when Paul was sharing his directory app with me, which Paul, thank you so much for your hard work with this, is that even though this information about the directory has been shared since the fall, I just don't think that schools know exactly how to use it. And I just wanted to take a quick moment to let you guys know kind of the power of this directory with Our School. So when you go to CHSAAreports.com, if you click on school directory on the right-hand side, and if you guys can't see me, just let me know. This is what comes up. And so this is great. You know, if you click on a school, you can get some information. But with that being said, what's even better is that if you scroll all the way to the bottom, keep scrolling, and you look for this tiny little envelope here, and you click on it, you have the power to see a lot more. And it's just CHSAA schools. And you click login. And from here, you guys are able to sort information by school or by all schools. You've got superintendents, all of this principal information, activity directors, and you can sort by sport, and you can run this information. And so if you, I'm just going to pull a short one, wanted to see the athletic directors and the coaches for skiing, both alpine and Nordic, you click that information, show contact. Did that pop-up show or no? Did you guys see the pop-up for Zoom or no?
Yes, we did.
Okay, awesome, thank you. And so here's the report. From here, you can export this into an Excel file, and you will have the athletic director information and coach information for whatever sport you're looking for. And that includes cell phones when provided and email addresses. So I just wanted to take a moment to share that. We have a really cool directory, and if there's any questions, please let me know. All right. I don't see any questions. Okay.
right?
Yeah, as long as, yes, I'll go tell them.
All right, thank you for letting me do that. With that being said, Rhonda, should I turn it over to you?
Quick, can I interrupt real quick?
Oh yeah, sorry, Matt. Go ahead.
We're doing a CHSAA outreach to go over the bylaws and all this information that was covered and get your insight. We have sent out a link for it for February 8th at 9 o'clock. We should have sent that link out. If you haven't, please reach out to a board member. But chance for you to talk. Once again, we'd love to have it in person and see everybody in person, but unfortunately unable to do that. So February 8th, 9 o'clock, we'll send out a Zoom link if you haven't already gotten it. Thanks.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Matt. Rhonda, is there anything else that you would like to cover?
No, I want to open it up for any additional Q&As. I know we want to say this is informal, but I've had a few texts during the meeting and really just want to open it up to the membership right now. We have our CHSAA outreach that will be virtual. We'll be working, it'll be all school. So we'll have another opportunity to come together once you've met with your leagues. But if you have any edits, questions, clarification with the packet information, please reach out to Bethany or any one of our administrators, because again, this meeting is about tweaking and making sure the edits are in place and that the clarification is in place before we get to the April meeting. So if there aren't any more Q&As, I want it noted how quickly this went and way above schedule. So I want to thank CHSAA staff, Bethany, for your leadership in just keeping this flowing and keeping it rolling. And thank you for those members of the membership who participated and made this interactive. So I'm done on my end, Bethany, so you can close it out.
Awesome. All right, you guys, thank you so much for your participation today. Thank you to all the committee chairs for all the hard work that you have done and continue to do. If, like Rhonda said, if there's any questions that come out, feel free to reach out to any CHSAA administrator with your specific questions. And we strongly encourage leagues, if you're looking to submit bylaw changes, there's still plenty of opportunity to do that. If you want to submit a committee amendment report, certainly there's opportunity to do that as well by March 11th. So please make your voice be heard. And with that being said, have a great rest of your day and thank you so much for attending. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.